Yo, what is going on, everybody? Caveman Jack back for another album reaction / review, and we are back live from the studio. Yo, hopefully, you guys are having an awesome week, man. This video I'm really excited for. This is an album that I've been meaning to check out for quite some time. Now, Talking Heads, a band I know nothing about. I really know nothing about them. The only thing I do know is that they have a song called Radiohead, and I think, from what I've been told, that Radiohead was inspired by that track to name themselves Radiohead. So that's a pretty cool thing. If that's a direct connection, I'm pretty keen to hear what this band has to offer. I don't know how many of you guys saw, but Apple Music released a top 100 albums in their eyes of all time. Now, I could sit here and talk about different things on that list, but really, I think it creates a conversation, and I think that's probably what they were aiming to do, and they definitely have. So 43 on the list, I believe it was 43, was Remain in Light. This is probably the most publicly known Talking Heads album, just from the album cover itself. Pretty keen to see what this band does. What is their type of sound? Is it an aggressive sound? Is it much more mellow? Is it more subdued? This is Remain in Light by Talking Heads. Man, I have no idea what we're going to get on this album. All right. Already it's just that little funky guitar. Look at that bass guitar, man. Also, 1980 this album came out. Quirky as hell, man. The instrumentation is just so quirky, man. Oh man, it's got a really weird way of presenting the vocals, but like it's kind of like I'm a government man. Like it just got a nice kind of flow to it. It's certainly jarring, but damn. 1980, it's got that 1980 kind of like really kind of funky spirit to it, but the instrumentation is feels like it very much in a league of its own in terms of, I don't know how much in the 1980s these kind of sounds were really being broadcast. What the hell? What are these ad-libs, man? I'm a government man, hey. I like that line. I'm a government man, the way he says it. A lot of vocal layers right now. Man, that is a strong intro track. That is a welcome to Talking Heads moment there. Very unique sound. From that song alone, there's definitely songs and albums that I've heard in my life that feel influenced by that. Even the way the lead singer was attacking the vocals kind of gave me a Damon Albarn feel at times. Even some of the instrumentations was a bit Gorillaz like, just that real quirkiness, just kind of throwing stuff at a wall feel to it. Each piece of instrumentation had its own voice and was very quirky. That's a very jarring first track. Lyrically, I wasn't able to follow kind of like key themes because the instrumentation was just so like prominent and in your face. It was like, whoa, a general beat that felt like it was repeated throughout the whole song. But then you had little pieces of instrumentation that were added as the track went on. Even like the little bridge section where they were just making these random ass ad libs, which was so quirky. At first, it was like, whoa, what the heck? How do I follow this? And then as the song progressed, like even like the line, "I'm a government man," like started really hitting. It just kind of had this real kind of catchiness and charisma to it that it was almost like he was flowing on that instrumentation. But yeah, really, really interesting first track. Pretty keen to see where they then go from here. If it's going to be kind of like balls to the wall, kind of crazy fun, I think this is going to be a fun project. Okay. It's got just a really good feel to it, this album, doesn't it?
Lost my shape, trying to act casual. Can't stop. I might end up in the hospital.
It's like a flute from the back. You like that little flute thing?
I feel like an accident. Nothing there. No information left of any kind. Lifting my head, looking for the danger signs. There was a line, there was a formula, sharp as a knife, facts that are holding us.
It's great guitar work, man. Really catchy.
The island of doubt. It's like a taste of medicine. Working by hindsight. I got the message from the oxygen. And I'm making a list. Find a coffee opportunity. Do it right. Facts are useful in emergencies. Facts are simple and facts are straight. Facts are lazy and facts are late. Facts all come with points of view. Facts don't do what I want them to. Facts just twist the truth around. Facts are living turned inside out. Facts are getting the best of them. Facts are nothing on the face of them. I'm still waiting.
I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting. Another hectic track in terms of the instrumentation being very sporadic, but also there is that sense of rhythm throughout the whole track, both tracks, a real great sense of rhythm. The rhythm has been such a prominent point of both tracks. Like it's constantly moving, and I feel like the rhythm is really important to these tracks so far. The drums have a really important part to play, I think, in keeping the tempo and keeping the pace. It doesn't feel very straightforward, and I wonder if Radiohead took much influence from Talking Heads because the songs so far haven't really had a strong structure to them from a face value or for first listen at least. They're very sporadic in nature, and a lot of Radiohead's music can be quite sporadic in nature, and there's no rules behind how the music should sound and how, like, what tempo, what time signature should be, and what time signature should play into the other time signature. And I feel like so far on both of these tracks, there has been this sense of let's throw the rule book out the window. And I don't know how diverse this sound was as opposed to other projects and other big bands throughout the 1980s. But early 80s, like the start of the decade, this album came out. I feel like this does sound quite, I can imagine this would be quite revolutionary in the way it presented itself from an instrumentation point of view, but also the way that he's attacking the vocals is slightly aggressive, and it might have been more aggressive than what had been commonly known in music in the 1970s. But let me know a little bit more in the comments. These are very, very, like, I don't know answers and assumptions and guessing, but I'm keen to hear a little bit more about what role this album had going into the 1980s. Great curve. It's like a spy chase scene from like a 1970s film. But Get Smart like.
Sometimes the world has a load of questions. Seems like the world knows nothing at all. The world is here, but it's out of reach. Some people touch it, but they can't hold on. She is willing to describe. That's messages for everyone. The world has a way of looking at you. Sometimes you feel that the world is wrong. She loves the world.
Even the way the song's kind of sung is a little bit, sounds a little bit like Midnight Oil, an Australian band. Once again, the track is just being constantly moved by the drums. Like, they've been so prominent from the start of the track, just keeping tempo. Sets the tone straight away. Even the placement of those ad-libs there. Yeah, man. The more I think about it, the more I go, like, 1980. Dang. Dang. A lot of things going on the left and the right side of the mix here. Like a bit more repetitive and fixed on the left side of the mix, and the right side, it's kind of like those long drawn out harmonies. It's very easy to fall into these songs. They're not short. They're not short songs. They're all got a fair bit of length to them, and allow you to just like lose yourself in the mix. I always find it really enjoyable listening to songs where the mixes and how the producer has placed certain tracks, and how far away they are and how close they are to them. Like, you know, how it feels like certain tracks are further away and certain tracks are a bit closer to you, or closer to your ear. It's always a really interesting thing there. And as we'll go into that back end of the song, it just, yeah, really was a really effective use of how this track was mastered, how the tracks were laid, because you could hear just so many different dynamics, and you could hear it prominent in one ear and you can hear it prominent in the other. And just the combination of that for an album that came out in 1980, the more I think about it, the more I go, wow, like these songs are really kind of like wow, how much did they push the boundaries here? How much was this sound jarring to the listeners in 1980? It feels jarring now, but I feel like back then it probably would have felt even more jarring. Bro, it sounds like a track from like the original Spyro.
You may find yourself living in a shotgun shack, and you may find yourself in another part of the world, and you may ask yourself, well, how did I get here? Letting the days go by.
Oh, I think I know this chorus. This chorus is a very famous chorus.
Into the blue again, after the money's gone, once in a lifetime.
Oh, that's cool, man. I had no idea that there was Talking Heads.
How do I work this? And you may ask yourself, wait,
This instrumentation is great.
and you may tell yourself, this is not
It's very
my beautiful
dreamy.
house. And you may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful wife. Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down. Letting the days go by, water flowing underground into the blue again. After the money's gone, once in a lifetime, water flowing underground. Water dissolving and water removing. There is water at the bottom of the ocean. Under the water, carry the water. Remove the water.
So trippy, man.
Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down. You may ask yourself, what is that beautiful house? You may ask yourself, where does that highway go to? And you may ask yourself, am I right? Am I wrong? And you may say to yourself, my God, what have I done? Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down. Letting the days go by, water flowing underground into the blue again, into the silent water, under the rocks and stone. There is water underground. Letting the days go by, let the water
Guitar, man.
same as it ever was, same as it ever was, same as it ever was. And look where my hand was. Time isn't holding up, time isn't after us. Same as it ever was, same as it ever was, same as it ever was. Here the twister comes, here comes the twister. Same as it ever was, as it ever was, same as it ever was, as it ever was.
I think Chance liked that song as well. That's a really good track. I mean, the instrumentation sounded like the theme music from the original Spyro game, and the Spyro games have great soundtracks. So that is not a I think there is so many fantastic video game soundtracks, and some of those games from the late 90s 2000s just have some incredible soundtracks. That song there, like the chorus, is very, I think, widely known by a lot of people. I've heard that chorus a fair few times, but I hadn't heard the rest of the song that kind of builds up to that chorus, and it was really nice. It had a lot of good feeling to it. The instrumentation is the side of this album that I'm really taking note of, so I do apologize if I'm skipping over a fair few of the themes lyrically that are prominent on Remain in Light. Just for me, the instrumentation is probably what's going to hit me first, and like his voice really suited the instrumentation. That kind of like almost theatric kind of style of singing. It's got a bit of Bowie feel to it as well. It's obviously Bowie's very distinct in terms of his voice, but that kind of theatric side of Bowie's voice, I feel like that's kind of prominent on the lead singer of Talking Heads as well. Right, every time I'm recording a video, Chance just like wants to get involved. Like, obviously he hears the music and just wants to listen as well. I understand that.
For a long time I felt without style or grace, wearing shoes with no socks in cold weather. I knew my heart was in the right place. I knew I'd be able to do these things. I'm walking a line. I'm thinking about it in motion. get to say much, never get to talk.
I like the effect on his
Tell us a
voice
little
here.
bit, but not too much.
Very
Right about
intimate right now.
It's where she give up. She has closed her eyes. She has give up hope.
Once again, too, listen to those guitars. I like this. Kind of back and forth. What is that? How much feeling is in the guitar on these tracks, man? House is in motion, like just once again, like the guitars have been such a superstar as well. Obviously, we've talked a lot about the drums, but like the bass guitar, man, bass guitar is just killing it right now. Like that song there, like I really took note of the guitars just because they had so much feel to them. They felt alive throughout the track. I'm really glad that I finally have sat down to check out Talking Heads because you can see where their influence has kind of spread out to a bunch of the albums and bands that I've listened to over my life. So it's always really valuable. And I think it's really important to go back to albums that are widely regarded for setting the tone or being revolutionary for a period of time because you might be like, oh well, I've heard that kind of sound happen before. Like, well, how do you reckon that band got influenced? Where do you reckon the rule book got thrown out the window for some of these bands? So bands like Talking Heads that took leaps, took risks, it pays off because some of your favorite artists, they're able to do what they do now and make amazing music because certain artists from years gone by took risks. So it's a really exciting thing, and it's a really important thing to go back through the archives and listen to really influential albums. Seen and not seen. That's cool. That's a cool track title. The bass again, man.
He would see faces in movies, on TV, in magazines, and in books. He thought that some of these faces might be right for him, and that through the years, by keeping an ideal facial structure fixed in his mind, or somewhere in the back of his mind, that he might, by force of will, cause his face to approach those of his ideal. Gradually his face would change its shape. A more hooked nose, wider, thinner lips, beady eyes, a larger forehead. This is why first impressions are often correct. Although some people might have made mistakes, they may have arrived at an appearance that bears no relationship to them. They may have picked an ideal appearance based on some childish whim or momentary impulse. By agreement and not probably, but that was intended to be either
Just warm, man. The guitar, man, really warm on that track again. Oh, that track there. it almost felt like they prioritized creating a almost like a score for this narration, as this guy talked about the a protagonist potentially having doubts about a certain decision they were making, or kind of diving into something and having a second thought about it, maybe kind of like backtracking, not really knowing if what they're doing is the right thing. Yeah, like a scene setting piece rather than like these loud drums, which we've heard a lot on this album. I feel like that one was very subdued, very, yeah. Again, goes back to like I know I keep saying it, but like it sounds like Spyro, man. Some of the instrumentation. Such a man, I think I just really want to play Spyro. I think that's probably what it is. Listening Wind. Alright. Man, look at these drums here. Well, I wouldn't even say the drums. Or percussion of some sort. It's like a glockenspiel. Oh man, real eerie. It's the windy guitar. Bass guitar once again. Welcome back.
Moshik sees his village from a nearby hill. Moshik thinks of days before Americans came. Moshik holds a package in his quivering hands. Moshik sends the package to the American man. Softly he glides along the streets and alleys. Up comes the wind that makes them run for cover. He feels the time is surely now or never more. The wind in my heart, the wind in my heart, the dust in my head, the dust in my head. Moshik buys his equipment in the marketplace. Moshik plants their vices through the free trade zone. He feels the wind is lifting up his people. He calls the wind to guide him on his mission. He knows his friend the wind is always standing by. The wind in my heart, the wind in my heart, the dust in my head, the dust in my head.
Man, that one was quite a somber piece. Just, you could tell, like lyrically, I couldn't capture the whole story behind it, but it sounded like potentially, yeah, it's a pretty dark track about someone longing for a previous iteration of their life. They potentially use violence to try appease that longing for previous life and what used to be. And the way he sung it was really, yeah, really sad as well. Really sad. Just his delivery had no real kind of hopefulness to it. It's quite bleak. Final track, man. This album has been a trippy ride. One that I've thoroughly enjoyed experiencing, and yeah, just showing respect to one of the great bands. Oh, brooding energy, man. Brooding energy as we build. This is cool. chopper in the back.
A terrible signal, too weak to even recognize.
Really atmospheric. Like you hear that synth just then, it just kind of like rose out of the ashes. See, goes back to that soundscape comment I made, just how wide the sounds can feel.
A frequent returning and leaving unnoticed, a condition of mercy, a change in the weather. We travel on the quiet road, the overload.
The way he kind of sung that and like the patience on his delivery reminded me of some of the kind of delivery on Tool. Because I remember when I checked out Tool, that was such a hard album to follow in terms of time signatures, the way the album moved. It was such an album I'll never forget. Lateralis. Some of the delivery on the slower tracks from Lateralis reminded me of that track there, the overload, just the brooding nature of it, the really subtle, subtle vocal take, not a lot of lines, even just like the last line, how it just draws out the overload and then just kind of plays the song out. Really interesting. Bookends of the album, you know, the first track. First track, Born Under Punches, was very like just straight out the gate, and then we kind of closed the album with the overload being a lot more subdued, a lot more brooding. Really dynamic album. We've got a lot of different tone shifts, quite jarring, you know, jumping from the higher intensity pieces to slower tracks like the last two tracks on the album, really kind of bringing it down. Even the last three tracks really were much more subdued. There were so many incredible influences from different cultures, different genres of music that made its way into this project. And for an album released in 1980, I'd like to think that it was super revolutionary. So please let me know in the comments what this album kind of did for the music industry. What kind of role did it have to play in some of our, you know, some bands that we love today, being able to do what they do? So let me know in the comments. What's your favorite track off this album? And give me a little bit more context behind what this album did for the music industry. I often say it was a wild ride or a crazy journey on a lot of these videos because that's what I look for. That's what I'm excited about when I check out projects, is for it to take me on a journey. And, you know, you guys put out so many awesome recommendations in the comments, and I do wish I could get to all of them. And I appreciate you guys checking out this video. If you enjoyed it and want to see more, I have listened to a wide range of music on the channel. That was Remain in Light by Talking Heads. What a ride. Finally able to check that one out and tick that one off the list, and definitely go back to that one because there is a fair few things I definitely missed throughout that project, and a lot of good lessons in music that I think I can get from that album. Hopefully you guys have a great rest of your week. My name is Caveman Jack. That was Remain in Light by Talking Heads. Take care, and I will see y'all in the next video. Cheers.